Perseverance, Curiosity and Fortitude, a 9-gram mushroom trip report from the Vivec Discord. It was a Friday night, 2.5 weeks after my 10-gram trip. I'd asked the mushrooms to test me to the fullest and give me the most intense experience possible. They gave me exactly what I wanted. Mushrooms are very generous in my experience. Sometimes you can ask and you shall receive, but what you want may not be what you think. I had about 12 grams of penis envy mushrooms out ready to eat them all. I was on the phone with my best friend, and we were talking and preparing for the trip. He started to get very tired as I was getting ready to grind the shrooms down to a fine powder. This made me nervous, but I then realised a FaceTime trip sitter wouldn't do me very good in shroom world, while I was unconscious anyway. I waited until about 1 AM to start. I finally grind all the mushrooms into the fine powder I desired, and start putting the greyish-blue powder in yogurt containers, and start shoveling down the contents. The first spoonful must have been a whole gram, as the white yogurt turned deep blue. I ate the majority of the mushroom yogurt, and by the time the clock struck 2 AM, I was already feeling disoriented and was about to throw up. I can usually eat more than this if I want to, and I was on a decent 8-hour fasting session before the trip. All I had that day was a slice of pizza. I pick up the spoon to eat more, and drop the spoon onto the floor, spilling all the mushroom and yogurt contents onto it. Well, I guess that's enough for tonight, I said. There wasn't much in that yogurt container, so I took it as a sign that this will be plenty for tonight. I had about 3 grams of powder left over, so I can say I had about 9 grams down the gullet. I cleaned up my room a little, and I already started seeing visuals all over the room. I was tripping hard as hell, and I'd only just finished eating 10 minutes ago. At this point, I had no idea if I ate 6 grams, 10 grams, I truly had no idea. But I did know that I was probably in for a ride if I'm having effects like this already. Then, the trip begins. I start to notice everything in my room moving in a circular motion in a GIF-like way. There are weird dots all over in a spiral, mainly black with some coloured dots. I have these bandanas in my room on the wall, and today my lights were off beside a light blue light, a pink LED wireless phone charger, and a reddish pink lava lamp. I noticed that my room is starting to change shape and move in very odd ways. The corners of the patterns on my bandana start to have thick white symbols on them, looking like a warped plus sign, almost like a swastika for some reason. The bandana now has an ancient alien language on it, and it is flowing like a river going clockwise. It is remarkably similar to the secret language in DMT trips. It did not feel demonic. It felt like those letters were the gates to the Akashic records. And my drawer looks like it is a matte charcoal black and is deformed and ominous. These are the most intense, cool, fascinating, and truly badass visuals I've ever seen at that point. I start to realise that my time in reality is almost up. I have the thought of a trip killer for a second, but I fight it off and say, I took the medicine, now it's going to have to do its work. I had to push through, and I asked for this experience. I put myself through this, and now I'm going to have to go through with it. I closed my eyes, and when I opened my eyes, I could barely make out my surroundings as everything was rainbows. I had a horizontal rainbow overlay in my vision that had every colour possible, and every object was made of rainbows as well. I felt like I was stuck in time, and no matter how hard I tried to move, I couldn't. My head was stuck mid-air. Time was frozen in the real world. My vision was lagging and blurring, so I closed my eyes and relaxed. I would then open my eyes again later to see my room looking like a different world, and I look at my ceiling to see everything is broken up and spinning like multiple kaleidoscopes. And then, just like that, full ego death hits, and I'm out. All I can see is an array of intense, colourful, 3-dimensional geometry coming at me, and an ancient Mayan soldier of some sort. I immediately thought I had finally pulled the last straw and overloaded my brain. I was dead in the brain. I had lost it forever, and I would be stuck here forever, in the afterlife. I then would go on to think about how much of my life I had thrown away by destroying my brain, and how disappointed everyone would be. Would people even care that I died though? Was it meant to be? Either way, I hope I'm not forgotten. I feel forgotten. Just another one gone in the wind. This was the ecosystem. Well, I definitely didn't think I would die here today. But it is what it is. And this is what it's like to die. Well, at least it's peaceful, I thought. This place is definitely familiar to my core existence, as if it's a part of me. I then break through. I would then go on and watch my own funeral. It was a summer day, clear skies, maybe mid-June. Everyone I had ever known was there. It was silent. It showed me everyone I knew in my life's reaction to my death and how I had died. I don't remember all of them, but some were sad and some were nonchalant, some happy and other druggies off the street. I do remember my principal was in deep sorrow and felt bad I died at such a young age. Then the vision switched to my dad. It must have been before he quit chewing, because he spits a dip out and says, "Dumbass kid," while standing over my casket. I immediately felt anger and sadness, but I did remain calm. I think this was a reference as to how I would feel, how I could never do anything in life. No sport, no good social life in the past, and I would always feel my father was never proud of me enough. Maybe I would never feel that he would be fully proud of me, to not be disappointed with something I had done, even after death. I still love my dad, and I know he still loves me. He just doesn't show it often, and I feel deep down he didn't expect me to turn out the way I did. A vague memory of my friends being very sad I died comes. I felt bad I'd left them to chase this other reality. But again, it is what it is. I felt everyone's emotions in my brain as one new, intense and heavy emotion. I would go on to live the life as my Spanish teacher and could speak fluent Spanish. I also lived in other people's lives. I was fairly hazy as to what I did in these lives that I had, but I did know that I'd had them. I also vaguely remember being shown world problems and other worlds briefly, trying to show me there is a beyond to this world, even if we cannot reach it any other way. That this world is a mask to the universe's secrets. No real details to remember though, unfortunately, and I then was able to open my eyes in real life. My vision was waving and curling and turning in a circular motion with an extremely fast pace, and there was light blue all in my vision, and I could hardly even tell it was my room I was in. My vision was also shaped weird. My point of view was not circular like usual, it was restricted. I could see the whole room when most of my outside vision was covered in indescribable hallucinations. It's a bit like a pinpoint, although I could still make out everything perfectly fine. I could not feel my body, as it felt transparent and like anything could pass through it. I mainly felt like a tiny head laying on a bed with no body. I went back into the trip, and I realised I'd been breathing heavily the whole time running through worlds. After this, I hear my dog come upstairs in the real world, and I enter a dully lit aquamarine room, and I was locked inside while seeing myself in the third person. I then thought that I'd gone into psychosis, and fell on the floor in my room and could see me on the floor in the trip. My dad starts yelling at me for taking mushrooms and going crazy, and I then realise I'm still on the bed and I'm doing just fine. I look around my room, and I see that my room has turned into a club, and the song What's Brackin' by Juice WRLD was playing in my eyes with perfect accuracy, down to every last lyric to beat. After this, I start to wake up. I was still deep in the trip, and I was placed in a scenario of running a race, fighting for my life while Barry Bonds by Juice WRLD was playing as my outro song to complete the final task of the trip. Fairly ironic. A test of my strength, will, and worthiness to live. I heard the voices of loved ones cheering me on to make it out. Was I even worthy of living? I would have to push on for my life to find out. I finally am able to open my eyes and am completely gone. Maximum level stage ego loss. I was heavily breathing and couldn't move as I was feeling extreme Alice in Wonderland syndrome effects, to the point I thought my head was the size of a globe, and my body the size of a phone. I take a deep breath, put my hand in my head, and process everything that had just happened, in pure disbelief. Although, I must say, I knew what would happen, and was extremely grateful for my experience, but I am happy I'm back. I get up to have a piss when I'm able to, and after taking a few videos of myself and almost falling through my mirror into an abyss, I notice my face is changing shapes, and my facial features are growing and shrinking to the point that I'm not even human anymore. This is all occurring at about 4:45 AM. All of this went down in the space of 2 hours and 45 minutes. I would then ride off the rest of the trip. I had extremely awesome visuals and the most intense and euphoric body high ever imaginable. After the peak is where you can fool around a little and have some fun, in my opinion, even on a dose like that. I would continue to see freaky things like my dad standing in my doorway out the corner of my eye, and he would disappear when I looked. I noticed my COD World War II posters looked like the soldier was alive. It showed emotions. It was like it was looking at a live person. Kind of like the paintings that are alive in Hogwarts, except I couldn't communicate with my poster at all. His hands were turning into faces and bodies and a lot of other really cool but freaky things. The corner of my room had a smiley face on it, and everything was deeply vivid in colour. All of these colours were changing, and had an angel-like dust floating around the out-of-place colours in my room. Everything was also intensely wide. It was as if a camera was in my eyes. It would look normal size, but when in the trip you feel everything is 3 times bigger and wider, and you're a giant in slow motion. Also, when I looked at lights, they had a glare to them. Diffraction is the term on Psychonaut Wiki. The diffractions would change into random geometric shapes every second. Circle, heart, square, triangle, even things that looked like a tesseract. My traces must have lasted 5 seconds at least. It looked like I would see things a second after they happened. The floor looked like it was about to float off as well. Don't ask me how, it just did. Everything was so intense yet simple. It was the perfect way to end a trip, honestly. I did feel incredible. Sometimes with psychedelics, it really is a journey of going through hell to experience heaven. Never fight it. Always try to ride with the flow and understand that this is all happening for a reason. Big thanks to Mr. Chase for scribing up his 9 grams of penis envy experience. Quite a heavy dose, to be honest, goes without saying. Beyond heroic. Again, Broken Record Simulator. Once again, telling you that I don't advocate any of this behaviour, and if you do insist on ingesting the old mushroom-based consciousness alteration devices, that you should always start with a smaller dose. Don't feel like you need to jump into something heavy like this. I must say that the reason I do focus on these more heavy experiences is because it's so rare, so extreme, that it's just too fascinating not to share. But yes, I do hear many of you people who say that they'd like to hear more lower dose reports. I'll feature any report as long as I find it engaging and has some depth to it, it's written well. And if I just find it entertaining to read through and just sort of touches me, I thought this was a really interesting experience, because again, I've never done or plan on doing a dose this high, so it's interesting for me to find out what it's actually like outside of doing it myself. Like I say, taking this amount of mushrooms really is reserved to the most super invested psychonauts. If there's half of you that's like, yeah, I want to do it, but I'm also sort of scared, that it's really not the type of mindset to go into it. You've got to know that the experience is going to take you out of the human sort of realm in such a somewhat brutal fashion, and that you have to embrace that brutality. If you're not up for doing it, and you start freaking out, or you're even freaking out beforehand, and just go, oh fuck it, I'll just do it, I'll see what happens. This is often the path towards a bad trip, and not all bad trips can culminate in a deeper understanding of the self. It can actually trigger PTSD and a load of other problems. Yeah, it must be said, I've reiterated this in the video I did a few days ago, The Untold Dangers of Psychedelics, that it isn't all sunshine and rainbows with psychedelics, and especially if you're going to be messing around with heavy doses like this, just expect to have your life radically changed. Obviously for some people it might not, and you might just have a quite a lower end experience. Some people are just naturally resistant to this sort of stuff, but say for the majority of people on Earth, you take 9 grams of mushrooms, penis envy especially, even if you've had years and years of psychedelic experience across the whole spectrum of substances there are, still don't go in with that egoic idea of like, nah, yeah, I can completely handle this, I'm a veteran, whatever. That's the sort of perspective that will have karma biting you in the arse for messing around with. yeah, one thing I do relate to on here when he says he was listening to that song by that the Juice World, the Juice World. I've had experiences. I remember my first time ever taking proper psychedelic. There wasn't 25i. I've talked about this before. That was my first ever proper trip. I got sold it as LSD. I took 1p LSD, which I had no idea. I just thought it was LSD with a numerical figure and an alphabetical figure slapped on it for the bants, a bit like blue meth in Breaking Bad or something. But obviously it's a prodrug to LSD and synthesizes as LSD in your body. But I noticed, and many other people do, that these prodrugs or LSD analogs actually have their own sort of unique characteristics. And holy shit, that was a super intense trip, but mind-blowing in a sense that I'd never experienced anything like that before. So there was no fear, because I think sometimes you get into psychedelics and do them for years, and then fear starts to crystallize because you know just how deep the rabbit hole goes and how freaky and out there it can be, and then your ego and can start to form some ambivalence towards psychedelics, even though your sort of higher self knows that it loves altering its mind and exploring the far reaches of metaphysical consciousness. But yeah, your ego doesn't like it because it's challenging it and breaking it down. But yeah, going back to what it says about the lyrics, remember we listened to the Zephyr song by Red Hot Chili Peppers in my mate's car when we were just all tripping out. We were going fishing, and then we decided, we literally cannot handle ourselves outside. It was getting dark. We thought this tiny bit of water was a giant ravine, and it took us ages to jump over it. We had to get 2 people from the local village to come and save us. So we just went and sat in my mate's car for hours and hours waiting for us to be alright to drive back. And yeah, I remember I closed my eyes and it was playing the Zephyr song. We had like a full album of Red Hot Chili Peppers tunes, and as I closed my eyes it felt like I was going through this vortex with loads of sort of women dancing around the vortex. These like sort of super sexy, like Aztec merged with Aztec meets sort of Japanese culture type of dress wear and looks to them. It was like, yeah, it was really fascinating. A mixture of both of those cultures. It was really fascinating, and going through this vortex, kaleidoscopes everywhere, impossible geometry and faces coming out everywhere, pareidolia out its head. And yeah, whilst the tune was playing and it was dancing in sync to it, and it was just really the moment I was like, oh my god, there's way more going on than just this normal sober waking state. The brain and higher than that consciousness is it was really what clued me into the idea that, oh wait, consciousness is actually limitless, and I'm just experiencing a limited form of it through my own personality, ego, the fractalized self. But yeah, really interesting one. Like I say, don't forget to check out the Vivec Discord. All the links are in the description. Instagram, the Discord, Patreon, donations. Yeah, I definitely advocate getting on the old Discord, because we have some really beautiful, funny and in-depth chats about life, and there's lots of memes and talk, just general stuff, games, TV shows, photography, art. And yeah, if you want to get your art featured in the thumbnails, definitely get on the Discord, because it's the best way for me to collect everything together. And also everybody else loves the thumbnails, I've noticed, so to collect them on there for your own enjoyment would be very good. But yep, talked for far too long now, and I'll see you on the other side, Mrs. Moneypenny.